a lot of our serotonin, which is a happy hormone, and the dopamine, that is another happy hormone, is actually made in the gut as well. So by nourishing the gut, you're nourishing your brain, you're supporting your liver, you're supporting your kidneys, and so your body can really work in harmony and be the best that it can be.
Hi, welcome to Bigger Than the Hustle podcast, where I bring you real conversations with entrepreneurs on how they live their lives outside their business. We deep dive into the energies, the motivations, the disciplines, the habits, and the mindset which give them success in their life, which allows them to be successful in their business. Now, today, I've got someone who takes their health very seriously. Her name is Amanda, and we met online, so we've met via Facebook, and I've invited her on because I love the sort of messages she was sharing. She supported me in my journey, my messages, and I thought it'd be nice to have a conversation and to, share our energy, to ripple out and hopefully touch the people that it needs to touch. So without further ado, hello, Amanda.
Hi, Bhavik.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. So I'm just going to hand the mic over to you. If you can give us sort of a short synopsis about you and yourself and your background, and then we can start the conversation from there.
Yeah, okay. So my background is in health and wellness. I've been a massage therapist for around 25 years now. I've always been passionate about health and well-being. I started off as a beauty therapist straight from school into college, and with different things that I've gone through myself. So I started with irritable bowel syndrome when I was in my teenage years, and that, I guess, just wanting to know more about the gut and why things are happening. I was always really intrigued, and over time, it's been a long journey, and I'm still on that journey, but actually learning about myself and then helping others. And then when I had my daughters, my youngest daughter had open heart surgery when she was 3, and then she got different other diseases that I learned were autoimmune. So very much what we would class as adults as lifestyle illnesses. So it's what we're choosing as a lifestyle. But my daughter was 5. She couldn't possibly choose that. So through different things that were happening in life, I actually started learning that it was the environment outside, and so started helping her, which then went on to helping others.
Perfect. So there's lots of things obviously I can pick out of what you just said there. But one thing I'd like to start on, my wife is a fitness coach. She serves prenatal and postnatal ladies before birth and after birth, and she's big on gut health. In terms of the gut having in terms of the amount of microcells and the way it sort of balances our system out. And it's a lot of people that listen to this probably have never even heard of this concept, but where, the gut probably has more control of the way we feel in our body than our brain itself, right? So if you can just talk a little bit about that, the little things that you've heard or that you've learned, and little bits of information you could share with the people that are listening.
Yeah, so our gut very much is the centerpiece of our body, I believe. Obviously, everybody has their own opinion. But to put it into simple terms, instead of talking about microbiome, it is literally lots of bacteria. So you have good bacteria, you have bad bacteria. And ideally, that needs to be the same amounts of both, really. So if you've got things going on, so like for me, when I had my irritable bowel syndrome, there was too much bad bacteria and not enough good bacteria. So it was putting my whole body out of balance. And what I didn't appreciate at that time, and what I've learned over the years, is that 90% of our immune system is actually made in our gut. So if anything isn't working in the body, it's very much because our gut is unbalanced. Mm-hmm. So that can cause skin issues. I have underactive thyroid now as well, which again, I learned that is probably an add-on from the irritable bowel syndrome because it's an autoimmune. But it can be anything. It can be fatigue. You can get so many different symptoms, and that's your body actually trying to tell you that something's not right. So it's really important that we're nourishing the gut for that to be able to then nourish our other organs, including the brain, because a lot of our serotonin, which is a happy hormone, and the dopamine, that is another happy hormone, is actually made in the gut as well. So by nourishing the gut, you're nourishing your brain, you're supporting your liver, you're supporting your kidneys, and so your body can really work in harmony and be the best that it can be.
Perfect. So if, in terms of when you say nourishing the gut, that presumably is by the nutrition you give it, right? In terms of the food, the water, the minerals, the vitamins, creates that balance, presumably. I'm quite a basic sort of understanding of it, but I know the importance of eating well, understanding what you're putting inside your body, understanding how food's been processed, understanding what nutrition it is, how your body's sort of taking that, taking that resource, so the food that it takes in, stripping it down and using it to the best we can. Now, so if you said that you've been through a health journey yourself, where it's opened your eyes because you've had to, because you've learned that for you, not just for you, but for your daughter as well. Can you just give a little bit of background about that as well, please?
Yeah, so what you were saying about the gut, it's very important what we eat, because obviously if we're nourishing, then we're going to sleep better, which means that we're waking better, we're making better decisions. So what I found with my daughter was that it wasn't that we weren't nourishing her gut with the nutrition, because we were, I knew what she needed. What I didn't realise was the outside stresses were taking its toll. So it's very much getting a balance of making sure that you are in this is really hard because not everybody can be in a calm atmosphere. But at the time, me and her dad were going through rough times. We split up. It was a really messy divorce. My world was turned upside down. But the really amazing thing was my health was going downhill, but Ellie's health was actually skyrocketing and getting so much better because she was out of that environment. And that really opened my eyes, because it wasn't just about what I was feeding her. It wasn't about what time she was going to bed. It was actually about how it was making her feel and the impact it was having from the outside. And so she developed something called neutropenia. Now, for people that don't understand that, in a nutshell, it's basically your immune system and your blood cells that fight that immune system, that for some reason your body takes away, it fights them. And there's lots of inflammation that's caused in there because of the stresses. And so just the simplest of colds would wipe her off her feet and put her in hospital for a week. So it was, a really serious thing. And what we found with her as she's got older, she's 19 now, but as she's got older, if she's going through any changes or there's any stressful situations, her neutropenic levels floor and she ends up poorly. So we know that at the minute she's rebelling a lot and she's not great with her nutrition. But it's not because she doesn't know it, it's because she's 19 and mum doesn't know everything. So, I have to stand back now and let her make her own mistakes, but she knows that if she allows herself to get too far, she's going to end up in hospital.
Right.
So getting that balance for me opened my eyes for her, but it also made me realise that when I was dealing with my clients and they were coming in for a massage and it was just a massage, they weren't really actually benefiting from anything, because we weren't looking at the root causes of what they were struggling with. So I work with my clients in a very different way now, in that I meet them wherever they're at, whenever I see them, and we look at the root cause and I give them things that they need to carry on doing between treatments, so they're getting the best and they're becoming the better version of themselves.
Yeah. And like you said just there, it seems to be a symbiotic system. So it's not just what's going in, but it's the outside as well. So you've got all the energy that surrounds you as a person, right? So you've got your mindset, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, the information that surrounds you, using that to then put what you put inside your body. So your nutrition, your gut health, your fluids, etc. And that combination with movement as well, in terms of sort of exercise and things, combined seem to create that balance. But like I said, if you're just going to concentrate on one thing, other things may give at certain points because there doesn't seem to be a balance in the whole system. Like I said, with your daughter, I understand that. My daughter's 14, yours is 19. They don't want to listen to their parents. And I'm in at some points you do want to say, but some point you just have to let them fall over, right? Let them just learn things themselves because they know themselves when they're just trying to do things to spite us or when they're doing things because they genuinely don't want to. And I think for me, my wife, I think, finds it a bit more difficult. But for me, it's I just let them now. Just if you want to go that way, that's fine. I've told you maybe it's not the best idea, but until you learn yourself, you're not really going to know. And when you learn, I don't want to be the one standing and saying, "I told you." It's going to be a case of, okay, now you know. Let's talk about what you can do. I think it's like exercise, nutrition, anything like that. We've learned from life, right? I'm sure you're bringing as a young person you probably didn't have the best nutrition, nor did I, in terms of the
No.
way we ate, because the information wasn't there. Our parents didn't actually know. So how are we going to know when they didn't know, right? And there was no internet or Google to tell them, this is, the amount of information we have today is enormous. It's mind blowing. But it's how we use that information, right? It's how we say, how will it help me in my life? So just sort of going back to your upbringing, how did it sort of from a child going up through teenage and coming out, being a young woman, being the lady you are today. Um, at what point were your healthy? When was the catalyst that you decided that health is going to be my life journey?
I think my catalyst was when I was going through my divorce, to be honest, because I was so stressed and it was so messy. I wasn't sleeping. I wanted to eat, but when I get stressed, I struggle to eat. I was losing weight, and my youngest daughter was refusing to sit on my knee because my hip bone stuck in her. And my eldest daughter would cry if she came into the bedroom and I was getting undressed because she could see every little bit of my spine.
Okay.
And so it was a difficult time, really, because I was trying to be the best I could be for them and be strong and show them that actually, do you know what, these things happen and we can get through them, because I did believe I could.
Yeah.
But I did live for years with their dad telling me so many negative things. So I'd got so many stories that I had been telling myself for so many years. So I was really trying to deal with that. And also, the reason that I decided that enough was enough, I couldn't live with him anymore, was because I started realizing that I either stuck with it, and then actually, what were my girls being taught? They were just being taught that you stayed there just because you've got kids. But if I wasn't happy, how on earth could they be happy? And if I wanted to achieve the things I wanted to achieve, because I'll be honest with you on here, for years I've been called a weirdo for the way that I live, how I eat, how I like to work out, how I really treat my body. The way that I believe, excuse me, that you should treat your body, because you've only got one.
Yeah.
And so I was really trying to get that message across to my girls that, do you know what, you can be independent, you can be strong, and you can achieve whatever you want if you can believe it. And I do believe that that's where my journey started.
Yeah. And do you think that catalyst? So again, we all go through a time when we classify it as a crisis. I've been through that time for me when business overtook my life and it became more important than the things that were really important to you. Like I said, your time was your relationship. And coming out the other side, looking back, at the time it was tough. It was the hardest thing I dealt with mentally and physically. But coming out the other side, I would look back at that and say, for me, is the best time for me because it turned me into the person that I am today. If that never happened, it might still have happened, but it might have been a longer process. But because it was a catalyst to say, you either change or almost like you're going to die, because that's the stage I was at mentally and physically. So I, like I said, I go look back as that being the hardest time, but I'm blessed that that happened because it never happened to me, it happened for me to become the person I am today. And for that, I am grateful. Now, unfortunately, like I said, for your situation, because there were other people involved, for mine, it was just me. I put myself through and I had to come out the other side. Although, my wife was there supporting me, my family was there supporting me, it was my journey. It was my darkness that I had to deal with and I had to deal with in my way. Not that time, I'd not seen much of anyone around me that had suffered because maybe it was silent, maybe they were, but I never saw it. But for me, it was okay, how am I going to work this out? And I can't keep doing the same thing and expect something different to happen. And therefore, something had to change, which was everything, right? Now, in your situation, we talked about children, we talked about relationships, right? Now, you've come out of that, fairly toxic relationship, what it sounds like, and then you've sort of moved on from there with your daughters, and it seems to be you've come out the other side really strong and really reflective and authentic with what you've gone through. Because I think that's how we can help other people go through their journeys. Now, talking about relationships, so if someone is looking, if they're with someone and they're looking to step down a long-term relationship like marriage or moving in with someone, what kind of questions should they be asking each other before deciding that? What in your experience?
Asking themselves what they should be doing, do you mean, in going through these
Yeah, so
things?
when they say if they're with someone and they're thinking maybe moving in together or maybe getting married, etc., what kind of conversation should they be having before deciding to move down this path in terms of being together?
I think I'm now married for the second time,
Yeah,
so I am. This sounds ridiculous, but I am so grateful for things that happened
yeah,
because I have the most amazing man in my life now
yeah,
who supports me 100%. And I think the lessons that I've learned and the things that I would discuss are: who are you? What do you want? Are you both singing from the same hymn sheet?
yeah, yeah.
Do you accept each other?
And it's the values, isn't it? Make sure
Yeah,
the values align, right?
yeah, like for me and my husband, we can be sat in a room and we might not speak to each other, but it's okay because we're comfortable.
Yeah.
There's not that awkwardness. I'm not trying to please him all the time. If I want to do something, I don't feel like I've got to ask permission, and vice versa.
Mm.
And with everything that I do, he supports me 100%. He's always in the background. We discuss things, and I think the huge thing about a relationship is communication. If
Yeah.
you're not constantly talking, if you're not actually respecting each other and just just honoring each other where you're at and actually accepting whatever you're going through and actually being there for each other, have each other's back, it's never ever gonna work.
100%. And I've said on previous podcasts, I am part of, I would never say, call my wife my other half because I'm whole and she's whole as well. And it's two whole people that create space for each other. And it's that middle space where we, for both of us, and it sounds similar for you guys, is we are whole people. We're growing all the time because we're learning new things. We're trying to, be more comfortable in our own skin all the time. We have two children, which we again trying to raise the best we can. And it's in that middle space where our energies combine, where the real magic happens, where you're supporting each other. Like I said, it's those moments of silence where you're sitting together and you actually become stronger by not speaking sometimes because you reach that balance point where I am wholeheartedly in love and with this person because I choose 100% to be with them. I know for us, I've been married 15 years and it's been a long journey, but it's only the last probably 3 or 4 years where I can really say that we've now grown to a space where we are the strongest we've been because we've now sort of become not just comfortable, but I think it's when you allow each other to be who you are, and therefore when they want to do something, it's 100% support. It's not a case of why, it's a case what do you want me to do to help you. And I think that it sounds similar for you. It's such a healthy place to be because when your home is filled with that kind of energy, you come back, you come back to replenish, you come back to recharge. So when you go out into the world, you are the strongest version of yourself. Would you agree with that?
100%, absolutely. And I think for me as well, even though the past few years we've gone through a really hard journey with my youngest daughter going through mental health issues, and that's another reason why I'm doing the things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Actually, overall, I'm so proud of my daughters because they understand that you don't put up with crap that you don't need to. You can stand up for yourself and say, no, I don't want that, this is how I want my life to be. And, I mean, one daughter is, she's just finished a uni degree in Brighton, which, we're based in Lincoln. That's a long way away. But actually seeing her journey of where she's come, and she said that, if I hadn't gone through the stuff that I had, she probably wouldn't have done half the stuff she has because she wouldn't have felt like she could.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's not just about females, because there's males out there that are struggling as well, probably more than females to a certain degree at teenage years. They just don't show it, and I think it's getting better in showing your feelings. But I think for some, depending on how they're brought up, there is still that part of, you're a boy, you're supposed to be macho, and you're not supposed to cry. So I think giving them permission and seeing them actually embrace that change, which I think we're seeing now. There is a change in the world, and I think the younger generation is more open to all this healthy living and being mindful and things like that. And I think, that's how we make the world a better place. And that's the whole reason to have children, I think.
Everything you've said, it touches me deeply, because that is the sole reason that I feel as a parent, if we want to affect the next generation of this planet and this world, let's look in our home first, because that's the generation that's going to go out there and make those changes, right? I see myself as, my actions speak louder than my words. So how I live my life, they see. In this house, what is normal is we get up and we train, we eat well, we communicate. Obviously there's lots of ups and downs, and that's just the chaos of a family. But what their normal is dad and mom train every day. We eat well. We can have treats, but that's what they are, a little treat now and then. We have days off where in the weekend we'll have a pizza, that's fine, but the rest of the week we know what journey we're on, right? And if that's the normal, when they step out into the world and maybe they don't see this with other people around them, for them it's going to be a case of, well, that's all I know. That's all I've ever known. I've only ever known a loving, nurturing, strong, relationship with everyone in my household, because that's, I see us as their first guide points to life, right? If the way we live our life is going to be the way they see, the reflection of the universe in their eyes. And if they don't like it, they know they're going to have the ability and the strength to change that to exactly how they want it to be. And like you said, the female male thing, I think it's quite interesting for me, because I've got a young son and I've got an older daughter. So there's about 4 years between them. And my dad, because he'd been raised the way he had, and he, coming over to this country, all they had to do was work, try and just survive, graft to survive. And that's given me the life I have, where I have so many more choices. I have such a great foundation to live upon, that I find that I'm standing on the shoulder of giants, because that's where I see that generation, the way they've raised me, allow me to have the life I have. Now, for me to step up, the things I need to unlearn, because there's so many things that I learned that I need to unlearn now. And with those being, like, my dad really, even though we knew 100% he was behind us, there wasn't that whole about love and cuddling and kissing and, openly saying things like I love you. We never got that. And that was fine, because I know the journey he was on. But I want to change that. I need to unlearn that. So every night before my son goes to bed, there's a hug, there's a kiss, I love you, is everything okay? Because I want those conversations to be normal. I don't want them to be, things you discuss only when you're going through a tough time. They need to be normal. And I know you guys from the British community, this has been something that is shaped into a normal way of being. Especially, I know probably with your parents, you may have had those conversations. With my parents, we never did because they never had it with their parents, you know. And we are now the first generation that are trying to move this along. So, what was your upbringing like in your household? Because I that really interested me, those kind of things.
Well, there was no conversations like you've just
Oh wow!
explained.
Okay.
So it sounds like my upbringing was similar to
Oh
yours,
wow, okay.
in
Right.
that my dad had his own business for as
Yeah.
long as I can remember. So we saw him really for 2 weeks of the year. He was out 7 days a week, and he would be out before we got up, and he would still be at work before, like, when we went to bed. He's never been the loving dad ever. I've never been a daddy's girl. In fact, I went through a stage when the girls were little where I was actually quite jealous because they were getting the relationship that I should have had with him. But when I had my girls, and even now, there are certain words that are not allowed in this house because I was told that I was stupid from a young age. And I now appreciate that my dad wasn't being selfish. He wasn't being horrible. It was the way he was brought up.
Yeah.
And maybe telling me I was stupid would make me want to learn harder. But actually, from the person that I am, it sent me further into myself because
Yeah.
I started telling myself I was stupid. So
Yeah.
even though actions do speak louder than words, I think you have to be careful with the language you use as well, because words can actually cut really deep, and they're the things that start the stories in your head of actually, maybe I am like that. My mum was the opposite way, where she like nearly suffocated us with the love and the cuddles and things. So there was never really like that balance. It was like mum was like ridiculously like, oh, I can't breathe, and dad didn't really give anything. But looking at it now, and again, like I say, you have to get to that adult part where, and I think you also have to be a parent to fully get the pressures that are on us as parents. Dad wanted to be able to take us places. So I don't really know a lot about his upbringing, but I do know that he was what they called the black sheep of the family. So he'd got 5 brothers and sisters, so he didn't get much of a look in. And so when he was bringing me and my brother up, if we didn't go on an aeroplane every year, we didn't go on holiday. Now that has made me very different because I love camping. I love being out in nature. My husband and I spend a lot of time in Wales, and we spend a lot of time in Scotland. It's probably part of the issue that he's Scottish and he doesn't like hot weather. That means we don't go travelling too often. But I've done things with Andrew that I would have never have dreamt of. I mean, I remember him taking me to Wales for the first time, and he wouldn't tell me where we were going, and it was dark when we got there. And I said, "Where are we going?" He said, "Wales." And I was like, "You what? It rains in Wales." And he was just like, and I was like, "Oh my God," because I wasn't used to it. But I love it. But that's something that when we were younger, Mum and Dad would sometimes take us to places like Butlins if we were going with grandparents, but the majority of the time we were going on aeroplanes. We weren't just spending time. Dad, like I say, he wasn't round very much, and when we were little, Dad would work through the day and then Mum would work at night. So there was never very, I think sometimes on a Sunday as we got older, there was times when all 4 of us would be at home. But then I think on my 10th birthday, my dad sat me down and said to me, "Right, you're 10. You can wash the dishes, you can clean your room, you can hoover the stairs." And I did that. And when I got to 13, he said to me, "Right, now you can start learning to iron and you can clean the house from top to bottom with your mum on a Sunday." And that's how it was. And I thought he was absolutely horrible. But do you know what? Again, later in life, I've been a single parent and I could run my own house. I could sort my finances. I could stand on my own 2 feet. And I do think that that's part of the upbringing, because I did know how to do it, even though I had a really good whinge and I thought it was the worst dad ever for making me do that. And we were never allowed to lay in, even on a Sunday. If Dad was around, if we were still in our beds at 8:30, we were lucky. You'd be like, out. There's no laying in until we got to a point where we were going out drinking and stuff, and then he wouldn't come in the room because we were just a mess. I did go through the hangovers and things like that, and I don't like how it makes you feel, so I don't do it anymore.
And I do agree, because I was probably the bipolar opposite in terms of how you came up. Because my mum, so my dad and my mum, so my mum was the homemaker, the housewife, she'd always be at home. My dad, like your dad, always had a business. Ever since I've known him, he's always had a business. So again, we didn't see him so much. And I probably didn't get started and get to know him till about 13 or 14 years old, because he was so at home such little. But my mum literally did everything for us. What I mean by that is cooked, clean, iron, everything. Even to the point when I left for uni, which was up to 18, rewind a month before that, my food was all cooked for me. My washing was all done for me. My clothes were. I'd go out on a Saturday night. I'd come home and I'd chuck my clothes on the floor and go to bed. I'd wake up in the morning, the clothes were gone. My tea was next to my bed. I'd get up and watch Hollyoaks for an hour, and she'd bring my breakfast, bring back, completely the typical Asian boy upbringing where we didn't do anything. And then when I went to uni, a few months later, it was a shock. Because I didn't even know how to use a washing machine. And one of my friends, Chris, one of my best friends at uni, he says, so I said, what do you actually do? Like, I know you put clothes in, but how did you like it? He goes, you put powder in, you put your money in, whatever it was, right? And I was like, I've never done it because you've never used that. I said, my mom's always done that. He goes, no, what about ironing? I said, I've done a bit of ironing, but I get that. But everything, luckily my first year was catered, so they cooked for us. And second year, third year, what my mom used to do was, it was really funny. She'd say to me, oh, so you come in for 3 weeks. She'd make 3 weeks worth of meals. So, and she'd write Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, she'd make prawns and then chicken biryani and then chicken and things like that, right? So that still carried on, but the rest of it was growing up. And then when I finished uni, the interesting thing was I find it hard going home again, because when you've had that independence, obviously you're living away and having a life where no one really questions anything you do. It's all on your head, everything you decide, right? Coming back home, even though my parents are cool in terms of sort of going out and things, it was hard because I found it again claustrophobic, being in an environment where we're not free just to do our own things, being 3 years away. So then I left and came back and things like that. So so now with my kids, I'm trying to sort of instill a little bit more, doing household chores, make your bed, things like that. Just, basic things, because I know the importance of it for life. You don't learn this stuff at school, do you? You learn it in life by doing it. And again, doing it in the home is the best training ground, because you can make the mistakes. So when you go out and live on your own, I always said to my daughter, at 18, you're leaving home, irrespective, and that's another conversation for another day, but that's a great conversation I have with my kids, So, looking forward now, we are in a situation where a lot of people are stressed, a lot of people are worried, a lot of people are uncertain with the way things are going to happen. Obviously, the old normal is finished now. The new normal is about to start, right? So being in sort of the health and nutrition world yourself, what small tips can you give people that are listening that maybe help them today and sort of going forward, which can help them in their sort of well-being based on your information?
I think to begin with, you've got to be kind to yourself. So that is the biggest thing. Mm-hmm. Don't put too much pressure on. And it's really hard not to do that. I still do that to myself. I still have days where I am absolutely shattered because my husband will say to me, well, you work yourself into the ground. But because this is my passion and I am in business, but it's my lifestyle as well. And from the treatment side of things, I'm not working practically. So quite often in my head, I don't see how he says I'm working myself into the ground, because I'm not doing what I'm used to doing. Yeah. And it comes to be, that new norm again. Yeah. So it's very much about being kind to yourself, taking the pressure off and taking tiny steps. Don't try and put everything in place. So even though, yes, we need the nutrition, yes, we have to understand how our gut works, and yes, we need exercise, which helps us to sleep. And then we need to be able to put things, so like on my post, I talk a lot about practicing gratitude. I talk a lot about affirmations. Mm-hmm. I talk about journaling, and all those things are amazing. But if you try and put them all together, it'll never work because you're doing too many things.
Yeah.
So it very much depends on where people are starting. But for me, even if you're getting up and you're having something like porridge or fruit or something that's going to fuel your body first thing, and that's the only healthy meal that you have in that day, you've taken the first step.
Yeah.
If you're already doing things like that, there's an app that I use called 7M Women, and you can do workouts on there from 4 minutes all the way through to 40 minutes. Start with 4 minutes. Don't push yourself, just do a few jumping jacks or some squats or something.
Yeah.
And do that as maybe a routine that's either first thing in the morning to boost them energies, or it's in the afternoon when you're getting that slump. But again, don't look at people and think, oh my gosh, they get up at 5, so I need to do that. You need to learn when you're more productive. You need to learn what fits into your lifestyle and make it actually fit for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we don't fit in one box, and one thing doesn't meet everybody. So you've got to find what fits for you.
Yeah.
What I would say is whatever you choose to do it regularly for 2 weeks. If you feel like it's a massive effort, then it's not right for you and you need to find something else. If it's working, keep going, because they do say, and I do believe, it takes 21 days to change a habit. It takes 30 to actually really get that habit rooted and it be a part of your lifestyle. It's still easy to fall off the wagon and try and get it back. But the one thing that I find is that when you find what fits for you and you see the difference in how you feel in yourself, it's easy to go back because you know what works and what doesn't. Always practice gratitude, even if it's just one thing you're thoughtful for. And the reason I say that is because going through everything that we've gone through with my youngest, and she is coming out of the other side now, she is taking a lot of small steps, bless her, but we have been in a bad place with her. But actually, if you can think of 1 or 3 things that you're grateful for, while you're thinking of those, your anxiety can't get a hold of you because you're focusing too much on what you're grateful for. So you're really then practicing that positive thinking. And, all these exercises, they are like a muscle. We have to build them. And then the affirmations, again, these have been amazing for me because of the stories that I had told myself. So instead of telling myself I'm stupid, I'm not, I'm amazing, and I'm enough. I don't need to be anything to fit into society. I am who I am. And if people accept me, that's brilliant. And if they don't like me, well, I can't everyone can't like you.
Yeah.
And you have to get to that place where I was on a training 2 weeks ago, and one lady said, and it's so true, everybody can't like you, but you don't have to hate the haters. You can love them just from a distance.
Yeah.
So it's very much finding what works for you. And if it's that you're struggling, find someone you can follow on social media that you relate to, that might be able to just give you tiny little pointers and build that relationship with them. And it doesn't mean that you're going to buy into them. It just means that you might be able to help them and they might be able to help you.
Yeah. But the thing, there's so much information that when I was listening to what you were saying, I was nodding my head because everything was the journey that I've been on. And I can wholeheartedly say, living it, there's so much truth in it. Motion creates motion. Only once you start moving can you continue to go forward. It's like I've made a commitment, which you've seen as well, to enter the New York Marathon next year, and it's the first time I want to run a marathon. But that hasn't come from just me deciding today. It started 8 years ago when I left my house with my running trainers on, and I couldn't even run to the first lamppost. And it was a case of walk faster, then jog a bit, and then walk, and then jog. But the thing that created the difference was going out every day for me, because that's what created the motion. So actually, I can run a bit more now. Now I can change this. And then 6 years on, doing half marathons and doing that, and then saying, actually, now I think I'm ready to make a commitment to push myself to do a marathon, right? And I think that's any part of life is like that, right? If you're not eating well, learn about one thing. Like you said, what do you do in the first thing in the morning? Like me, I'll have a pint of water. That's my first thing when I wake up, because I find that helps me. And then, sometimes I miss breakfast completely because I think I feel good within myself. I don't need that. So I'll go on to lunch. Or if I do, like I said, porridging fruit is my go-to always because I know it lasts me. And sometimes I'm fine to not have lunch and go on to evening meal. And I think, like you said, it's what works for everyone. What I've just said, they may not work for anyone, but what works for you. But until you try it, you don't know, right? And the information thing, I think, is huge. Surrounding yourself with the information that serves you to make you stronger, right? So, like you said, social media, cut out all those drainers, the drainers that are pulling the energy away from you. Start surrounding yourself with radiators. Radiators are people that are throwing out energy, that are giving you good tips. And they don't, a lot of people are not doing it for themselves. They're doing it to try and help the next generation, to help the people that are listening. I know that's the reason I do it. A lot of the time I put a post out, and then once I put the post out, I close down my Facebook, my Instagram, because it's not about seeing what the response is. For me, it's just putting information out there, and what happens from there is not in my hands anymore. And that's how I've helped my own anxiety, my own mental trouble in terms of keeping myself stable, being strong within me, because I don't look for outside opinions anymore. I look for my own opinion. And if I feel that I'm not being the best version of myself because that's how I know I can be, I have got myself because I know there's so much more in me. But when I've had a good day, I do clap myself, and it is a conversation we need to change in our head. If I've said this before, if you had the way I talk to myself sometimes, if someone else talked to me like that, they won't be in my life. But that voice, the amount of times it calls me an idiot in a day is unbelievable, right? And I'm sure we all have that. But it's consciously changing that voice to sort of be your cheerleader now. It's when I'm running now, I have changed that voice when when I'm thinking, oh, I'm tired, it flicks me and it says, no, you're not. You've still got more in you. Just keep going. Stop being lazy. And that's the voice I need to hear. But when I'm sitting sometimes with my kid watching a movie, I'm saying, no, you don't need to switch that laptop on, leave it off. Just sit with them and enjoy this time because that laptop can come on anytime, right? And I'm glad, I love having conversations with people like you, Amanda, because when we all living in almost like a harmonious way, so these conversations to me are like fuel. I I hear them and it makes me even more determined to bring in more things into my life. So, like I said, the gratitude thing, I know I need to be better at that. And this keeps reminding me, do that journaling. I need to be better. This is my way of journaling, launching this podcast because it's a way of me sharing my thoughts and my feelings with everyone out there. So, in terms of the way you journal, the way you gratitude, the way you live your life, the small steps, I'm sure, is what's created your life right now, right? So it's all the little pockets of things you've done, and not, like you said, don't do it all in one go. Because a lot of the time we see the mountain, don't we? But we don't see the first step. We see the 20 things, but we don't think if we just do that one thing. For me, that one thing a month is a great way to start. Start one thing and just say, this whole month, all I'm going to focus on is that. Once you've sort of bagged that into a routine, you've got a second thing that you can start with. And if you can do 12 things in a year, that's great. Even if you can only do one thing in a year, that would be a great year for you, right? And the information that we share as people is just our truth, isn't it? We're just sharing what we've done ourselves and it's helped us. And we're not trying to be preacher. We're not trying to say this is the best life because we know we've still got a lot to grow. So for you, Amanda, where are the areas of growth that you still need to go through to be the best version of yourself or the next version of yourself?
The areas that I need now is to stay on my journey of learning and growing. So personal development is now non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
I read a chapter of a book every single day, and it's something that's positive. It's not, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with fictional stories because you have to have some downtime, but you need things that are non-negotiable for you to be able to grow. And, if you can't pick up a book, there's loads of podcasts, there's loads of audios, but for me, it's about keeping my mind positive and growing so I can share more and more. And I'm learning on social media, because before all this happened, I wasn't amazing on social media. It has been a massive lesson for me. But actually, I don't want to be perfect. I want to show people who I am, and that's why I do my vlogging rather than blogging. So people can see, you know, they can pick up on my energies. And quite often, because of the lifestyle that I have now, I am bouncing with energy. And I know that 9 times out of 10, first thing in the morning, because I get up at 5, and I know that if I go into our bedroom at 7 and I'm just like bouncing, I can feel my husband like hide under the duvet and go, oh, you know, because he's not bouncing with energy first thing in the morning. And I am. But one massive learning for me, and it is a journey and it changes all the time. And I loved the word cheerleader that you used, because we have to be our own cheerleader. What's been important for me is through my journey, I have learned to look at who my inner circle are. And by what I mean of that is the 5 people that I spend most of my time with, because you do become those people. So if you're wanting to learn and grow, you want those people to be your cheerleaders as well. They want you to succeed. They want you to be positive. They are speaking good things into you. They're not putting you down. They're not questioning why you're doing stuff. They appreciate you for who you are, and they want you to do good. And so as I learn and grow, I've actually accepted that there's some people that just fall away. And I have this saying now that some people come into my life for a reason, some come in for a season, and some are there forever. And it doesn't matter. You honour them and you love them when they're there and when they've gone, because they're either there to teach you a lesson, they're there to just share something, or they're because you need to teach them something, or they're there because they're meant to be a part of your journey. And so for me, that is, I think, the biggest thing. And now from a business point of view, it's learning how I can really bring value to people through a screen and not be one-on-one.
And those words sit with me deeply, because I felt that within my life as well. It's at the times when it is the darkest, you need that support. We can't do this on our own, right? And it's those conversations that can change everything in terms of the words. The words, like you said, the words we use with each other. For me, this kind of conversation is almost like a normal conversation with the people I have around me. But to a lot of people that may listen, they may think that I don't have this kind of conversation with anyone, especially like you said, about male and female. I know a lot of females, and they have almost like a heart to heart with a friend or a group of friends almost on a weekly basis. You know, there's sharing going on all the time. But with men, there isn't, and that's the truth. And a lot of the time, it's almost like it's okay. We're supposed to just work stuff out without saying it. And for me, it's always been, listen, no, we need to talk. Sometimes things aren't good. Sometimes things are shit, and we need to be able to just say, you know, I ain't feeling that great today, or know that it's okay to be that way, especially as a man. And I'm still learning. I'm still trying to do that, and because I've been through such a journey myself, I've come out the side, you know, really strong. There are still times where I feel that, you know, I'd like to pick up the phone and talk to someone. And by me even starting this and having those communications and the contact with new people, especially like yourself, those conversations are now just going to increase. My circle is just going to increase and be, you know, that double support where I can pick up the phone to you, Amanda, and say, is everything all right? Everything good? And likewise, you can do the same with me and say, Bav, this is what's going on. What do you think? And you know, how do we create the strongest version of ourselves is by recognizing that, and by knowing that's our armor, isn't it? That's our shield. The people, the information, the things that we watch, the things that we eat, the things that we read, the conversation that we have is the shield that protects us and allows us to be the version we are. And if we can keep drawing that energy within us, the only thing we can draw is strength. Like you said, getting up first thing in the morning, by 7 o'clock, you're already bouncing, because that's been you time. That's the time you've invested in yourself to be the best for your husband, for your kids, for your friends, for your family, whoever it is that surrounds you, with your clients, whoever it is, because you know if you're unshakable at that time in the morning, the rest of the day is going to be perfect. And then when you get home, and at the end of the day, when it's time to recharge and replenish, you've got the people around you that will nurture you, that will allow you that to happen. That's your home. So when you get up again and the next day starts again, it's bounce and let's get on with this, because we know if we're strong, everyone around us is strong. And I think that's our job as people, to be who we can. And when there are times when we don't feel that, let's be open and honest. Let's be authentic, and let's draw upon the people around us that we can say, actually, am I seeing this wrong, or am I not seeing this in the right way? Can you help me here? And it's being humble enough to say, actually, I don't have the answers. Can you help me? Because I don't, I've always said I always want to be a student. I never want to be a teacher in that way. I always want to learn, because that mindset of learning, keeps making me better. And I'm sure you're on a similar journey, just from the things you've talked about and the things I've heard in this conversation. I know we're going to have a lot more conversations on this, because it's so important that we can try and share what we can share, because when we go, that's all that's going to be left, right? The energy we leave in other people, the way we've lived our lives, and our legacy is hopefully, like you said about social media. Go back 3 months, Amanda, and look at my social media. I was non-existent, and now I've realized that sharing has helped me. And it's almost like I became, when you watch YouTube videos about learning stuff, so material you have to fix the radiator, they've gone to all that trouble to record that to help you, and you're doing nothing in return. You're just taking the information and using it, which is fine. That's not a problem. But the way I saw it is, how can I help with my life just by putting some stuff into practice? I understand technology. I understand video cameras. I understand audio. So what can I put together which I enjoy? I love conversations, and being socially distant has challenged that. But again, how do we pick up? Before that, I couldn't even do video calls. I found them sort of quite alien, but now it's become like second nature, right? Because we've grown. So, going sort of forward from there, how do you think this pandemic has helped you in your life?
I think the pandemic has helped me to become a bit more savvy around Zoom. Zoom's become my best friend because it's what I use all the time for both my businesses now. But I think it's not just for me, to be honest. I think it's for everybody. I think it's made us slow down as a society, which I think is amazing. And I think probably the biggest lesson, and I was speaking to a friend about this the other day, and me and my husband were talking about it a few weeks ago. I think the biggest lesson for us, because we've been very blessed, because he's working from home, he's still full-time, he's not furloughed, and obviously I can run my business online. So from that point of view, it's not really changed for us. We're not seeing each other a great deal still. He's pinged my office, and I'm now in my daughter's bedroom, and he keeps telling me it's his office, but it's not. It's definitely mine. And but I think the one thing, in all seriousness, that we have learned is how often, and it's not just us, it's everybody, do we use time as an excuse? How often do you say, I ain't got time to do that, when actually this time has made us sit down and say, have we not got time, or is it not a priority? So are we disciplined? And I have definitely learned in these 3 months that you have to be intentional with your time, because it is so important now to carry on the memories that we're making as a family. I mean, I will quickly share that about 2 years ago, my youngest daughter was having real issues with her mental health, to the point where I was getting up in the morning and I was petrified to open her bedroom door in case she'd killed herself, because she had self-harmed so many times, and we'd spent so much time in A&E. And now, she's not amazingly great, but she's much further on than that now. And thinking of how I was thinking and all the things we'd not already done, life is just too precious to just be not bothered. So we have to be intentional with our time, and we have to be, memories are everything.
Yeah.
Even if you're not taking pictures and you haven't got, like, you can look back on these podcasts and we're having a giggle and, but you've got it in your head and you can look back and you can see that and you can visualize it. And sometimes when you're having bad days, they're the things that I think you have to hold on to.
Yeah.
And if you don't take the time to create them, you're not going to have them.
Yeah.
And one other thing that you were saying about when you're wanting to achieve things, one of the things that I tend to say to my clients, well, there's two things I say to my clients. One is, when you're first on your journey, write down things that you're achieving, because we quite often see what we haven't done in a day. But if you actually sit down and see what you have achieved in that day, you've had a productive day. But you just don't see the tiny things as achievements.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we work on is, if you can't see yourself in a year's time, just see yourself in 6 weeks' time. What do you want to achieve? And then work back to what you need to do and take that first step. And then what's the next step? And even if you write them down step by step, so you haven't got to constantly think about it if it overwhelms you, because you've already got it written down. Once you've nailed that first step, right, that's the next bit, that's the next bit. And before you know it, in 6 weeks' time, you're where you want to be. And then you just do it again and do it again and break it down into the smallest of chunks that it needs to be for you. It doesn't have to be in 5 years or 10 years' time. It can just be what you want in a few weeks' time.
And I think that, we talked earlier about the mountain analogy. When you see the mountain, it just seems too big to hurdle, doesn't it? Too big to scale or too big to conquer. But if you just think about, how do I move that first step in front of the next foot and move in that direction? A lot of the time, it's not the mountain that's the issue, because you may say, I'm overweight, or I need to change my friend circle, whatever, whatever the thing is that we're all struggling with, because we're all struggling with something. It's okay, so which step can I put next to move me in that direction? I don't have to work out the whole answer, because we don't know that yet, but how can we start moving in this direction? And a lot of the time, when you create that motion and when you start moving forward and you keep going and you keep going, you have the discipline and the patience to keep going, a lot of the time the mountain becomes irrelevant. It's the person you're becoming on the way. And then when you get to that peak, when you've actually got to a point where you feel that actually I've now conquered that demon or whatever it is, a lot of time it's irrelevant, the mountain in the first place. And then because you see the next mountain in front of you, right? You see the next peak in front of you. So I've always said, if we can enjoy the journey of who we're becoming and how we're becoming it, is irrespective of what it is that we're trying to do, just keep trying to do something to help us. Because if we are strong, like you said, it's not about the whole world, it's about our world. And our world is the people around us, whether that be kids, whether it be partner, whether it be family, mom, dad, whoever it is. That's our world. That's what we need to be strong for. We don't need to be strong for everything, because a lot of the time the world can help itself, it can help itself. But we can help just the people around us by being who we can, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Now, as we sort of had, these conversations, Amanda, I could have all day, because they, like you said, they fill me up. They make me brighter as a person. And if I can be bright, I know I can shine my light for all the people around me, so they can shine their light for their people, right? And that ripple can carry on. So if we can sort of head towards the end here, and there's a couple more things which I think are a little bit deeper, so we can get to know a little bit about how you think. I know we've heard a lot already, but we're now sort of at the end of your days, right? So you're 200 years old, you've lived the life that you wanted to live, you've done everything you wanted to do, you've helped all the people you want to help, but now you're in your last moments before the new journey begins. You don't have enough energy to speak, but you have enough energy to hold a pen and write 3 words or 3 sayings which you believe have helped you in your life. And hopefully, if you can share these with people that are listening, if they can implement them more into their life, it can help them in their journey. What would those 3 things be for you?
So 3 words would be health, happiness, and memories.
Cool. And if you can just talk a little bit about each, why it's important to you.
So health's important, because if you haven't got your health, you can't actually work to the best of your ability and you can't support people. So you should always be filling your cup up.
Yeah.
And I say you should actually be filling it up so it's overflowing.
Yeah.
So you are keeping yourself strong, but that overflow, it says that you can support people from a good place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Happiness is, you need to be content with who you are. You need to accept yourself for who you are, and don't try and please people, because it doesn't get you anywhere. So living your life the way that makes you happy, and that looks different to everybody, so don't look at other people for how you should be. It's like success is different to everyone.
Yeah.
So happiness is the way that you live your life, and it makes you fulfilled, and it makes you want to get out of bed in the morning. And memories is, leaving memories, leaving a legacy of something that people can love what you did and remember you.
Yeah.
And not remember you because you were big-headed or because you slagged people off, but because of what you brought to them. So for me, leaving a legacy, that's the big thing for me, for my girls.
Okay.
So yeah, those three things are super important, I think.
No, I felt them from through the words that you're saying. So I know they're obviously important to you, and that's why it's I like this little exercise, because it does help us remind us of who we are and why we're here and the reason that we're doing. Because I think we always have to go back to our why, right? There are times when things are tough and things are difficult, and a lot of time we get a bit foggy in our own brain why we're doing something. If we can always go back to the why, it always clears the path again to continue on our way, right? Okay, so now this podcast is called Bigger Than the Hustle, and right now you're bigger than the world. So I've sourced a mic which is going to get you connected to 7.58 billion people in this planet. Everyone is awake. Everyone is conscious. Everyone can hear you. There is no language barrier, so the message will be heard clearly. If I gave you the microphone for 30 seconds and asked you to share a message with the world, what would your message be?
My message would be to love yourself, nourish your body in the right way, inside and out. So be aware of what you're using on your skin, as well as what you're actually feeding your body within, so you can be the best version of you. And just remember that it's, you are your priority. It's up to you to actually show other people how to be. And also, just going back on what you said, think about how you actually talk to yourself. Because if somebody else spoke to you like that, would you accept it? And if you wouldn't, why are you allowing yourself to speak to yourself like that? So be practicing gratitude, do those affirmations, do whatever it is that you need to do to keep yourself positive, energized, and live the life that you love, because you only have one.
And if you're living the life you love, you can then take people on your journey with you, right? And you can fill them up with love as well. Because in the day, if it's not for that, what's it about, right?
Absolutely.
So as we reach the end of our conversation, Amanda, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy woman like we all are, and nothing happens unless we make time for it to happen, and that's what we've both done here. Hopefully, we've shared a message that we can, take people listening. Hopefully, it's touched people to move them into the right direction. And like I said before we started, I pray that this message reaches everyone that it needs to reach to help them in their lives. Thank you, Amanda, for turning up in the world the way you do, the way you put your life, you live your life. And I think that's so important, to be authentic, to live your truth, and to share your message and your journey with those around you, and in the wider context, so that we know, first of all, there are people like you out there. And secondly, we are, living the life like this. This is a daily battle for us to be the best we can. And if we can live that, life authentically and with truth, just the way you are, just the way I'm trying to as well, we can, shift a mindset of it, the next generation. I think that's what it's about as well. So thank you for turning up in the world the way you do. Thank you for being the person you are. And I know I've added another person to my inner circle to try and keep, the peg to keep us both strong. And we will have a lot more conversations. I'm sure we'll do this again at another time, because I know there's so much more. This was only an hour, and it's a short hour because there's so much information that you still have, and so many more stories that I still have that can still help a lot more people in both of our worlds. So, is there anything else you'd like to say just before we end?
The only thing that I would say is just remember that when life isn't great, it's a lesson. So whatever is going off for you, just look for the lesson in there. And just remember that when the good things are there, you can appreciate them more if you've been through bad things. Because if your life's amazing all the time, you don't appreciate it and you don't actually realise just how good things are.
Yeah.
That's all I would say.
And you only know the light when you know the dark, right? You only know happy when you know the sad. So it's only when you know the comparison, you know you're in a situation which is worthwhile and worth holding on to. And like you said, you have the similar mindset to me. It's not a case of win and lose. It's a case of win and learn, because they're the only two outcomes to anything in life, right?
Absolutely. And from a food point of view, I believe that food is either fuel or it's evil. So it's either going to energize your body or it's going to feed disease, and you are the one that has to choose which one you're going to do. And I'm not saying that you have to eat perfectly all the time, but maybe having an 80-20, so you still have your treats, but like you said earlier in the podcast, it is a treat.
Yeah.
Because that way you learn what serves your body and what doesn't, and you need to be the expert on your body because nobody else is living in it. And if you allow people to tell you what you should be doing, you'll never know what's right.
And the 80% is us being strong, and the 20% is us being human, right?
Yeah,
we need
absolutely.
That balance, right? So thank you so much, Amanda, and I know we'll do this again. So just before we go, guys, this was the Bigger Than the Hustle podcast with Amanda. I'm going to put her details up on the show notes. So any information that you want to share with her, if you need to follow her, you need information from her, anything. I know she's posting a lot more online as well. So, follow her. You need to surround yourself with people like us, because this is what we show what the real world is like. So again, I'll put all her details on there. So if you do need to get in touch with her, I'm sure she'll be happy for a chat. So thank you so much for spending your time with us. Thank you so much. Hopefully you've got something from this. Leave you with this message. Big energy leads to big ideas. Big ideas lead to big thoughts. Big thoughts lead to big actions. Big actions lead to a big life. To keep thinking big. Until next time, see you later and have a great week. Bye-bye.
When clients come in and they are, they feel inspired by me, it motivates me to tell them my journey and almost motivates me more to keep going.